Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Photo Business Success Podcast. I'm your host Morgan with my co-host Megan, and today we are going to talk about how to stop comparing yourself to others when it comes to your photography business or your business in general, whether you're a photographer or not. Super important. So let's get started. Megan, do you want to kick us off?
I can start us off. I think this is super relatable. Probably everyone at some point or other has compared themselves, especially for photographers, we're artists, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for us to not want to improve our craft. But I don't think that that is where most comparison comes from personally. It's just that that's how we disguise it. We think that we're in the business of looking at other people's work to better ourselves, but it's not really rooted in that for me. I don't know if you have a different take on it.
No, I think that is really a good place to start with this conversation because I think a lot of us look at each other's work and are like, oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. Like, that must be why they're making more money than me, or
Mhm.
seem like they're fully booked, or
Right.
things like that. And I mean, we've talked about this before that a lot of people, when you were full time in this, and I mean, I don't think a lot of people know this about me either, like how much money we make. We aren't the most popular photographers around, and we aren't over here talking about it all the time. But I think that's because we've both learned to like put our heads down and just get the work done rather than looking at others around us. This is something I see a lot when I'm talking to younger photographers, is like looking at other people's work and thinking that that is why they're more booked.
Mhm.
And that's so far from the facts. It really comes down to like marketing and sales.
Especially when you think about what are the things people say when they book you. I I know, so I can remember this one couple for whatever reason. They're the ones that stick out to me. Their names were Jen and Chris, and I think they got married in 2014, 2015. So, yeah, maybe 14. So this was a while ago. And what I remember is that after they got their photos back, Chris mentioned to me that they had hired me, in his words, they had hired me because my tones were not too warm or too cool. He said it looked to him like how real life looked. And I don't remember why Jen actually hired me. I do remember that they hired me like 6 weeks probably before, but I don't remember what it was that she said. And it wasn't that.
Yeah.
Most of the time, people are not hiring us, even if they say they love our work, they're not hiring us because of that. They're
Mm-mm.
hiring us because they had an amazing interaction, some kind of memorable moment. And even over the years, as I've thought about who I will hire for my wedding photographer, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
We have incredibly talented friends, and not just friends, but acquaintances. My all time favorite is a guy by the name of Ed Piers. He's in the UK, and I
Mhm.
obsess over not just his work, but his method. And I think as photographers, it's so easy to get sucked into that.
But I think we have to
Right.
look at it from the average person's perspective because they aren't
Right.
going to look at
But, like
it.
but even knowing that, like, is Ed actually the person that I would hire? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if Ed is the person I would hire to be there, like, glued to my side on my most intimate day.
Right.
I just don't know, and I love his work. There is no photographer on earth whose work has moved me personally more than his. Jason Vincent is another example. Oh my gosh, we've talked about him in the past. He has, I think,
This
the
has
most
become a Jason
un
Vincent fan podcast.
he's incredible. The moment he captures and the way that he sees the world,
Mhm.
I've never met anyone who sees the world like
Right,
him. And every single photograph from him is artwork. It is perfection.
right.
And yet, like, I'm not sure that he's the person I would hire. You know who I would say, like, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I wouldn't regret hiring him is the photographer from my first wedding, whose name is Josh Newton.
I was gonna
And
say it's Josh, right?
not the best photographer in the world. He's an awesome photographer, but he's certainly not Ed Piers or Jason Benson. He's not out there
Right.
winning Fearless Awards. He's done a lot, but, like, I know what it would be like to have him by
Have
my
him.
side and have that comfort.
Mhm.
And I think that so we need to stop thinking that it's about work, because even as photographers, we probably wouldn't make the decision
Right.
fully based off of work. Would it be a qualifier? Yes, but it's
Yes.
not the be all end all for sure.
It's not the deciding factor because, like, once you get to a certain point, like, for the general public, work looks similar.
Your work is good enough. Can't
It's
tell the
good
difference.
enough once you hit a certain point, your work is good enough. It is about the relationships you create. I sent you this text from my bride over the weekend. I just shot a wedding on Saturday and she like thanked me and I posted her sneak peek the next day and she thanked me endlessly and I'm going to pull up the text. She said, "I'm speechless. I laughed and I cried all from the sneak peek. Each photo is incredible and brings so many memories. I'm so honored to have had you as my photographer. These are incredible. Thank you so much." And she also commented on my post that like she was glad I was the one there because I felt like a friend and I like stood up
Mhm,
for her on her wedding day
right.
and we hit it off right off the bat for her wedding, like when we had our conversation, because we both went to the same college, which is kind of rare. We both went to really small college, didn't know each other. We went at different times. And so I think like, those like small moments help builds you up, and we just have to remember as photographers that like yes, our work is important to a point, but that's not what we should be using to compare ourselves to others. If you're going to look at others and look at what they're doing, look at what their sales skills are, look at what their marketing skills are, things like that. That's what we should be like looking at when we're comparing ourselves to others and learning from it.
I hard disagree. I
Okay,
hard disagree. Comparison in general, useless. Because mm, mm, hold on.
go for it.
Because comparison is emotional. It's never actually clinical.
Yes.
You
I I
you
meant looking at it to learn from.
Okay, but I'm also okay with people looking at other people's work. So, okay, so my friend, when I had my business, I was based in California, and I had this friend slash person who I like deeply envied. By the name of her business name is Kate Noel, or Kate Noel Photography. Kate was the photographer I wanted to be.
Mhm.
Composition was perfect. Her colors were perfect. Everything about her work was to me perfect, and not perfect in the way that Ed's or Jason's was, but in that, like, to me, our styles were really similar, but hers was just more polished. It was
Right,
editorial, but still capturing moments. It was storytelling, and yet it had a classic quality to it. And so, in my mind, she was never my direct competitor because I just thought she's so much better than me. We started, I think, around the same time. She got more experience than I did earlier on, especially with weddings. And I just always, I love her as a person. And that was another thing. She was just incredible. Like, she's just the most wonderful, warm-hearted person, and she's organized and she's like on it. Oh, I wanted to be Kate. And the thing is that I was doing such a disservice to myself by comparing myself to her. And I don't know what happened, but one day I just decided to go look at her pictures and be more clinical about it. So look at her pictures and say, why is this better than my work? and not look at it from a place of envy. I mean, it was still aspirational, but I went and I looked at
It's
it and
more
I
of a
literally
technical.
like, yeah, like I looked at it and I was like, wow, I've shot at this venue and I never would have used this wall to shoot against. I never would have shot against a wall, period. But look at how it turned out.
Mhm.
She had great contrast. I wouldn't have taken this photo from this angle, but look at how it turned out. And what resulted from that was that number one, I was able to let go of that. It was a secret competitiveness um, that I had with her. She didn't feel it for me. I'm sure she didn't. But like I was always measuring myself up against Kate.
Mhm.
And the thing that really started to teach me was that I began to look at the technical, and it did shape my photography, but it was still my photography. And so it became an instructor rather than a way for me to feel insecure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was talking about, like, if you're going to, like, look at somebody else, like, learn from what they're doing right as far as, like, the business aspect, because photos are only going to get you so far. But if you do need to still learn, I mean, there's always room to grow, but, like, don't get caught up in the little things.
So, I mean, it does matter how your photos look. We're photographers, Morgan. Like we're artists, and so it does matter. It shouldn't be your only focus to be good at
Right,
photography. I get what you're
right.
saying.
Yes,
Focus on that because the photos are not
yes.
going to be what increase your business.
Increases
But that's not the
business.
topic that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about comparison.
Yes.
Comparison is always bad because it's like got an element of shame to it. So
Yeah.
don't compare yourself. You and I, although we are similar in so many ways, we are still different in how we sell. And like
Yeah.
you shouldn't I would not want you to walk around. In fact, like just like one thing that we know is I think we've talked about this is that like my average value, client order value was
Mhm.
higher than yours is.
Yeah.
I would hate for you to walk around feeling this like under this weight of comparison, comparing yourself against like my like that number because that's the
Right.
result. The thing that what you're talking about is process related, not
Yeah.
result oriented. So like you can
Yeah.
look at my results and say I want her results, but like don't compare yourself to the results. Like look at the process. Like
Yep.
that's healthy. Healthy is looking at the process and saying how can I
Yes.
improve? It's not healthy to look at the result, the end, whatever it is, whether it's this
Exactly.
single photograph or the the sale, the IPS
Mhm.
sale afterward, because like comparison is all bad, but looking
Yeah.
at how to improve is pretty much always healthy.
Yes. Okay. Anything else you'd like to talk about today?
I mean, I to me this is a topic that it can be talked about probably endlessly, but
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about it.
Okay. We just wanted to give you guys a short episode to remind you to stop comparing yourself to others. Everybody is on their own journey. And yes, Megan.
I thought of something said, which I know it's trite, it's oversaid, but it's also really important. Like you're a lot of times when you're comparing yourself to someone else's middle when you're at the beginning. Even I remember when I started working with my mentor and I had my very first ever IPS sale was I think $3,400 or something to a couple. Everyone in this mentor group was like, "What? How did you do that? We just had the class 2 weeks ago. How on earth did you manage to pull that off?" And what I had that they didn't was tons sales experience.
Sales
I had
experience.
corporate sales experience. I had been given the toolkit of sales and like very nuanced sales for years from companies that send their trainers to study sales. They pay for their trainers' education. And so
Yeah.
it was super unfair for anyone else who, by the way, all of them had better work than me. Every single person in that room had better work than me, not disparaging my own work, but they were masters compared to me. But I had business experience that they didn't.
Mhm.
So, like, when it comes to comparing, like, you're never actually
Never
looking at
in the
apples
same
to
spot.
apples.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
what
what
you
I
said
was
about the journey, that reminded me.
Well, that's what I was going on to say, was that just because you can't compare yourself to anybody else, you don't know what their past experience is like. You didn't start everything the same day, haven't had the same ability to work or whatever it may be, like same work schedule, all of that. Everything is different for every person.
Right.
And so it's a disservice to you to compare the end results when you don't have all the information. It's not all the same. So we just wanted to put that out for you there today, because I know this is when a lot of photographers start looking at their work and doing a lot of creative stuff with the off season. And so we just wanted to make sure that you guys heard this from people who have been in the industry for a while, but we hope this helps. We will link out to the Wedding Multiplier Toolkit in the show notes. And is there anything else we need to link out to? Oh, the Facebook group, if you would like to join the Facebook group. And yeah, we will see you guys next Wednesday. Sound good? Okay. Bye, guys.